Over the last couple of years, Lil Durk has become a household name in the rap game, transcending the label of Chicago driller straight out of the trenches to a fully blown megastar. And to get to this point, he had to hone his rap skills, bring melodic singing into his music, and soften his image for a mainstream audience. And as a result, in 2021, Lil Durk is much more pop star than block star, these days spending more time on Billboard than in his native hood. But you could say maybe Lil Durk's catchphrase should be cry now, laugh later, because when you consider what Durk had to go through to get to this point in his life, still alive and breathing, you'd probably shed a tear too. In fact, over the years, Lil Durk has been through so much hardship and taken so many devastating losses that many people are convinced that he is cursed. In fact, Lil Durk told DJ Vlad all the way back in 2014 that he had already lost around 20 to 30 friends to violence.
20 friends?
I think like 20.
Not 20 people you knew, 20 actual friends.
Yeah, like 20, 30 people.
Since this interview, people on Reddit have even tried to compile lists naming every single person who Durk has lost over the years. And by 2017, when Durk was being interviewed on The Breakfast Club, he said that at this point he had lost so many people that it was becoming routine to him.
Are you numb to the death at this point? Because you see it happen all the time in Chicago. So when it happens now, when you're on,
it got the same effect. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But it'd be like, it happen every day so much, you'd be like, damn, all right. You'll get called every day, like, what's name is that? You're like, damn.
Like,
you know what I'm saying?
I was just with him a week ago.
Right, nothing funny. You'll be like, damn, that's crazy. Mm-hmm. But it happens so much to us in Chicago, it's like, all right, this ain't nothing new.
Now, if you watch the video from my Gangs of Chicago series about the war between Durk's 300 crew and JoJo World, you'll know some of the losses that Durk suffered early in his career. He lost his homie Lil Mo before he had even started rapping and paid tribute to his fallen friend in one of his earliest songs. Durk also lost his day one homie from 600 D-Thang to gun violence after he was tragically gunned down only age 18 in a car on the corner of 61st and King Drive way back in 2011, with Durk honoring his fallen brother by getting a D-Thang tattoo on his shoulder, a tradition of honoring his fallen brothers on his flesh that he would continue in the decade that followed. Now, if you watch that 300 versus JoJo World video of mine, then you'll know that Lil Durk's career blew up off the back of a little song he had called L's Anthem, a track which featured lyrics directly dissing Durk's ops, which many have suggested sparked a deadly gang war in the streets of Chicago that would continue on for years afterwards. Ironically, after L's Anthem blew up and Lil Durk's musical career began to take traction, as Durk's name got bigger in the music industry, so did the target on his back and the backs of his friends. And even though Durk was having a lot of luck in the music industry at this point, his luck in the streets was less than ideal. In fact, just as his music career was beginning to take off, he immediately caught a gun charge, eventually being forced to do 3 months in jail. And from here, Durk's luck with firearms would only get worse. In June 2013, he was arrested after being seen by police throwing a .50 caliber handgun into a parked car when he saw the police approaching him. This put him in jail for another 13 days before he was able to bond out, with a witness eventually claiming the gun and getting Durk off of those charges a whopping 3 whole years later. But if it's not gun charges getting Durk down, it's gun discharges. In September 2015, Lil Durk's tour bus was shot up before a show in Philly, an incident which left a man dead, in an incident allegedly carried out by a man in an OTF shirt.
We begin with shots fired outside a concert venue on South Street. One person is dead. A rapper was getting ready to perform inside the TLA while hundreds of people waited outside. Randy, do you know if there's a connection to Lil Durk's concert and the shooting?
Right now, police cannot say for sure whether this is all related, but that rapper's tour bus was actually hit by at least one of the bullets. It's actually still parked right here in front of the theater, now part of this crime scene. The shooter was last seen taking off in a limousine.
Our shooter was a male dressed all in black. He had some distinctive lettering written on the front of his shirt, but I don't want to identify that at this point because it could be gang related.
With 3 suspects fleeing in a limousine after the shooting, but later getting apprehended by the authorities.
Within an hour, police were able to track down that limo just a few blocks away. Skyforce 10 capturing this video of police taking 3 suspects into custody.
It really does seem like bad luck just follows Lil Durk everywhere he goes. But I'm not the first person to notice this, because for some years now, there's actually been a very creepy video floating around the internet. And this video claims that there is a terrifying curse that's been following Lil Durk around for the last 10 years that he just can't escape. This is a curse that has plagued Lil Durk's entire career, inflicting Durk and his friends with devastating bad luck that oftentimes proves fatal. So today, we're going to take a closer look at that petrifying video and answer once and for all, is Lil Durk really cursed? This video has been going around the internet for quite some time, and it shows various clips of Lil Durk and his friends in music videos, creepily pausing and telling the story of every single person close to Durk who ended up suffering a tragic fate. The first person supposedly affected by the curse on Lil Durk is J Money, or J Munna. J Money was a close friend of Lil Durk's affiliated with his OTF record label. He was unfortunately gunned down seemingly as part of a long-running feud with a rival gang. In fact, you might already know a bit of background about this incident if you watched my earlier video on the war between O Block and Tucaville. As on September the 2nd, 2013, Jerome Wood, also known as J Money, from O Block was allegedly set up, with J Money apparently visiting a location on the 6600 block of South Rhodes Avenue around 2 p.m. Allegedly set up by a girl on the ops turf, legend has it that J Money was expecting to see a woman he knew, but arrived to the location to be greeted by Lil B and KI from Tucaville. He apparently attempted to flee down a gangway into an adjacent property, but he was unfortunately shot in the head, collapsing outdoors and not making it. Once the news of J Money's passing broke, Lil Durk mourned his fallen friend on Instagram, saying, "RIP J Money. We just lost a savage who put tears in the ops family's eyes. You ain't never forgotten. Hashtag OBlock300, fuck the bricks." Another fallen brother of Durk's who appeared in that cursed video is Pluto, aka Lil Pat. He was sadly killed in a rollover crash on Lakeshore Drive in November 2013, with Durk mourning Pluto's passing on IG with numerous posts saying, "I ain't want to post a pic or answer the phone or shit. I'm lost. Hashtag RIP Pluto. Feeling like Pluto. I'm pouring up for you right now. RIP Pluto. RIP Pluto. I'm sick as fuck. I seen how that car was crashed. I wish I took you out of town with me. You was the turn up of the party. Real one for life." Durk would go on to later honor his friend in flesh with a Pluto tattoo on the right side of his stomach, as well as another tattoo saying RIP Pat on his left knuckles. Durk later revealed in the song What Your Life Like that the city had somehow labeled Pluto's car crash as gang related. A dirty move which essentially meant that the city of Chicago wouldn't have to contribute to Pluto's funeral costs, which would normally be the case in a car crash death sustained on the city of Chicago's roads. And Durk broke down this snaky move by the city of Chicago in more detail in an interview with Sway.
My homie Pluto died. You know what I'm saying? He got into a car crash and died. And you know, the city streets, if something happened, like a car crash, they got to pay. Yeah. They got to put money on something. Like, it wasn't nothing dealing with that. You know what I'm saying? They still ain't get no money up for his funeral, saying it was gang related.
After those tragic losses, it's important to remember that not every single shred of Durk's bad luck is fatal, because the supposed curse surrounding Lil Durk also extends to lengthy and perhaps unfair jail sentences. Another face that pops up in that curse video is D Rose. D Rose is a name who you might be familiar with if you've listened to Chief Keef's music, because D Rose seems to be a pretty well-known and respected tough guy on the streets of Chicago. And despite having his name linked to numerous cases, including at one point being linked to the killing of Lil Jojo, apparently falsely for the record, when D Rose's name came up in a new case, the Chicago PD were looking to put him away for good. Because eventually D Rose and his friends were accused of pulling up on a group of younger boys at 6100 block of South Vernon, opening a passenger door and firing a handgun at the group, hitting a 14-year-old boy named Venzel Richardson in the head, leaving him deceased. D Rose was eventually convicted of this murder, being handed a hefty 40-year sentence at the young age of 17. In fact, King Von even claimed in the song What It's Like to have actually been in the cell with D Rose when he was handed that 40-year sentence. After that sentence was handed down, Durk tweeted out saying that they're slamming all of the young bulls that he grew up with big sentences and he wants to see him free. But if D Rose's case is one of bad luck and perhaps maybe a little bit of foul play from the Chicago PD, depending on who you're talking to, this next person on the list saw their luck change from incredibly good to devastatingly bad within the blink of an eye. And that person is THF Bobo, or Bobo. Now, Bobo's story is truly crazy. He is a close friend of Durk's who had caught a serious charge of double armed robbery, where a 40-year-old man ended up getting shot twice during the crime. Now, Bobo ended up getting held on these charges in the Cook County Jail for around 2 years. And this was the result of an insanely tragic and unlucky turn of events, because the victim of that robbery turned shooting ended up surviving 3 weeks after the incident, fighting for their life in the hospital before eventually succumbing to their injuries and passing away. This would mean prosecutors upgrading the case to a full murder charge. However, as a result of the victim still being alive for 3 weeks following the first crime, the prosecutors ended up screwing up the paperwork and missing the deadline to take Bobo to a trial. As a result, they failed to upgrade the charges from robbery to murder for over a year, leaving Bobo just sat in jail waiting. And it turns out that this actually violated Bobo's right to a speedy trial. Apparently, the law states prosecutors have 120 120 days to file charges, and as a result, after being held for 2 years and the murder charges not being properly filed by prosecutors, that late murder charge would end up being dropped, meaning that after around 2 years in jail waiting to fight a murder case, Bobo would finally be able to bail out on $10,000 bond for the robbery charges that were still outstanding. Now, that's an incredible stroke of luck for an accused killer. So he was seen bailing out of the Cook County Jail, wearing a grey hoodie, ready to enjoy his newly finessed freedom. However, it's hard to believe what would happen next, because story goes as soon as he was released from jail, Bobo jumped into a car with 2 friends, riding off from the jail on South California Avenue. And then, within mere seconds, a white SUV pulled up on Bobo's car and opened fire, letting off over 20 rounds from 2 different handguns drive-by style. The shooting car crashed and the shooters fled on foot, leaving Bobo dead at the scene a mere 8 minutes after being released from jail. Now, the next batch of curses are seen in Lil Durk's music video for the song This Ain't What You Want, with THF Bezu bringing a particular amount of misfortune into Durk's life. Bezu was arrested by police for a 2009 murder 5 years after the act happened in 2014, with the police picking him up from Lil Durk's house. But this arrest ended up getting Lil Durk into a jam too, because while they were there to take Bezu into custody, the cops spotted 2 handguns on a table next to Durk. And when Durk was asked by the cops why he had these guns, he replied with probably one of the most gangster lines ever. He said, "I got those pipes because Nigel's always be trying to take my bands." Well, unfortunately, these pipes would be taken away by the authorities along with Durk himself. He was actually bagged on a probation violation because he is not allowed to have guns at his property after being caught with that 40 cal pistol that we mentioned at the start of the video. Anywho, with Durk in trouble for the pipes, Bezu would be facing a much bigger rap for this 2009 murder. This was a wild case where 5 years before he was arrested, Bezu had allegedly approached a 21-year-old man named Dominic Barnes on 4700 block of Forestville Avenue, allegedly asking what set he was before immediately opening fire and killing him, with this brazen attack even going down in front of as many as 5 witnesses. After the double arrest, Durk had posted Bezu on his Instagram saying free him and that they're both going to come out from underneath this drama. And well, eventually they did, because Bezu managed to beat these charges and ended up a free man, and Durk would eventually get both his charges and his probation dropped. Another person who Durk associated with from that cursed video is a man named 5 Star. He'd been pushing dope outside of Chicago, selling a substance called phenylfentanyl to drug addicts in Iowa. Now, this is a synthetic opioid that's apparently around 1/5 the strength of real fentanyl, but still 10 times the strength of regular heroin. 5 Star had apparently sold this substance to somebody as H, with that person going back to their apartment and giving that substance to 2 of their friends. Those 2 people who were given the substance overdosed on it in a car outside of the property, but were fortunately met by emergency responders who were able to save their lives with Narcan. However, after the emergency responders left, the man inside the apartment continued taking the substance and was found dead 18 hours later. And 5 Star ultimately ended up getting a hefty 20-year sentence for selling these dangerous substances. Now, the next person we're going to discuss isn't actually a friend of Durk's, but one of the most strange people that's even associated with the supposed curse on Durk is a 17-year-old fan named Maxwell Gatto. Now, he ran into Durk in July 2014 and posed for a picture with him, apparently taken by his girlfriend. But only a few months after this photograph was taken, in September 2014, he would find himself in grave danger. Gatto's girlfriend was allegedly selling weed, eventually crossing paths with a guy named Advic, a prolific finesser who had a habit of tricking drug dealers out of their drugs with fake money. Gatto's girlfriend was apparently planning to sell $500 of weed to this guy Advic. Advic had apparently planned a weed heist with 3 other people, telling one of them to just go grab the weed and then run back to their car. One of the people who was involved in this caper was a guy named Hicks, someone that Advic had just met at a barbecue not too long before this caper went down. So Advic pulled up to the caper with a few of his friends, ready to get robbing. And apparently he decided to wait in the car and send Hicks, the dude who he'd met at the barbecue, to go and snatch the weed. So he got in the car, and apparently as soon as the 2 ounces of weed that they had agreed to buy was pulled out in the vehicle, Hicks pulled out a gun and started firing. Gatto got shot in the back and died, with his girlfriend being shot in the face but fortunately surviving.
Grieving friends and classmates of Max Gatto turned to each other for support, stunned that the popular 17-year-old senior at Niles North High School was shot to death last night. Gatto and a 17-year-old female were sitting in a car in the 9200 block of Kedvale when they were shot.
Now, somebody else that's not mentioned in that curse video, but certainly another big loss for Durk, is Marvin Carr, known better as GBE Capo from Front Street and a member of Chief Keef's Glow Gang. At 1:45 p.m. on July the 11th, 2015, at the 7700 block of South Kingston, Capo was targeted in a brazen drive-by, getting hit in the back and the hip and later dying in hospital. Now, there was even footage that was captured at the scene scene following this incident that is far too shocking to show on YouTube. But this shocking assassination was followed by an even more shocking situation, because following the shooting, the driver fled the scene, going on a 3.5-mile high-speed chase away from the cops. With this chase ending when a driver hit a bus stop at around 60 miles per hour around 63rd and Ellis. And waiting for a bus at this bus stop was a young mother, with her 13-month baby Dylan Harris in a stroller. But the sad truth is, that 1-year-old baby was seriously injured by this crash and would later go on to pass away in hospital. The getaway driver in this hit who was responsible for killing that child, Antoine Watkins, was eventually convicted of reckless homicide and sentenced to 8 years in jail, with the mother of that baby screaming "You killed my baby" at him in the courtroom. That's right, a measly 8 years for killing a 1-year-old child in front of their mother. Nice work, Chicago. And nobody was ever charged for the killing of Capo. Following this tragic series of events, Durk responded to Capo's passing with a heartfelt post on Instagram saying, "Rest up my boy, we was just saying how OTF and GBE back in it crazy as hell. Keep your head up, no limit." With Durk going on once again to memorialize his friend in his flesh with an RIP Capo tattoo on his wrist. That's a lot of heartache for Durk to endure. With this many friends and associates lost in the streets, you can understand why people think there's some kind of curse on Durk. However, this really is just the tip of the iceberg. Two big names that are often associated with Lil Durk are of course Rondo No. 9 and LA Capone. LA and Rondo rep Team 600 and Steve Drive, the latter named after their friend Lil Steve, who was tragically gunned down at the young age of 15. Durk, Rondo and LA were all together in the music video for the song Play for Keeps, as well as having appeared together on the legendary trio banger Brothers. And you can imagine that the loss of these two brothers would have been devastating for Durk. Now, I broke the Rondo No. 9 story down in great detail in another video on my channel, so go give that a watch if you want the entire Rondo story. But long story short, after an altercation at a party, Rondo and others were lurking in the streets looking for ops to get back on. And in a case seemingly of mistaken identity, Rondo ended up playing a role in murdering an innocent cab driver who just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Rondo was given 39 years in prison for his role in this unprovoked murder. Durk reacted to the news, making a free Rondo post on Twitter and telling Rondo to keep his head up while he's in jail, suggesting that they might even release some of their old music together.
And we know, come with the street shit, you know what I'm saying? Chilling for nobody, I won't wish them the worst ending. You know what I'm saying? If you're not giving his head up, head up. Yeah, got a lot of songs Rondo didn't been dropped. So y'all tag DJ Benz, tell him to drop all the songs or drop at least one for me and Rondo.
And apparently Durk also got himself a No. 9 tattoo too. But if Durk lost Rondo to a case of mistaken identity in the streets, Durk's loss of LA Capone would be an incredibly personal, direct result of the tit-for-tat killings in the gang wars of Chicago. On September the 26th, 2013, LA receives a call from a studio owner that he had been trying to book a recording session with. He told LA to come through to record and to come alone. LA goes to the studio and starts recording, with clips from this final session even circulating online.
No, fuck, I'm coming, man. Jakes don't like us standing on the block. What that is though? Just record. Yeah, though. Just record. This gonna be a hit song, man. You recording and shit.
Now, once LA is finished with this session, he leaves the studio through the back door, and it's there that he is ambushed in an alleyway by multiple people and shot multiple times. Initially surviving, being treated by paramedics and being alert and talking whilst he was going to the hospital, but unfortunately LA would later succumb to his injuries and pass away at the young age of 17. And 1 year after this, 3 people pled guilty to the murder of LA Capone, with the main shooter being handed a whopping 45 years. In what was apparently a planned hit, the direct result of somebody giving them LA's location whilst he was at that studio. Durk initially tweeted "Get well, little bro" when he heard that LA was in the hospital, later tweeting "RIP Lil Bro" when the tragic news came through. And once again, Durk honoured his friend on his flesh, getting an LA tattoo on his left arm.